It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
Coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing all right today. Today's show, she's being brought to you in a part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on beautiful St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. Or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's for an authentic Italian meal. And speaking of St. Simon's, I'm trying to coordinate us doing a live show, a couple of shows, this show, from Sal's Place coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by the Holiday Inn Properties. That's right. Holiday Inn Properties, man. Holiday Inn Express, Holiday Inn Resort, Holiday Inn. You get the idea. Holiday Inn. If you want to stay there, get the Billy C discount. That's right. We can get you a Billy C discount on any Holiday Inn property. Just call toll-free 844-603-0364. That's 844-603-0364. Or, if you're like me and can't remember numbers, just go to our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the banner. It's right there on the right-hand side. And today's show is being brought to you in part by my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. You can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this show. Just go to BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. If you want a signed copy, don't worry about it. Just visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the book, and you'll get the directions. Hey, you want more than one copy? I love you. Just drop me an email, and I'll hook you up with special pricing. Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. Special shout-out to all of our iHeartRadio listeners on WGIG, 1440 AM in Brunswick. And, of course, my man George and the rest of the crew from Nashua, New Hampshire on WSMN 1590. And you can check us out online on either of those stations when they play us. Just visit their websites to get the programming. Coming up a little bit later on the show, we got Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazzard join us. We got a bunch of things to talk to Larry about. Alex Perpali will be presenting this week's Blast from the Past. A good one, another good one requested by yous guys. On former multi-division world champion and Boxing Hall of Famer Wilfred Benitez. But that's coming up later. But coming up now, a couple of big things in the news that I want to get going right away. First and foremost, it's been offered the way Anthony Joshua refers to it, an over-the-moon offer. I love the Brits and their terms. But the biggest offer to date for Deontay Wilder, the same guy that's going around yelling and screaming, saying that AJ's ducking him, Team AJ has made an offer to Deontay Wilder, and it's a good one. It's allegedly, from multiple sources, an offer with a rematch clause to fight next. This is the next fight. This isn't a preliminary fight. This isn't us going through any BS. This is for Anthony Joshua to face Deontay Wilder with a rematch clause in it. First fight in the UK, second fight in the USA. Where'd you hear that before? And they're offering him a upfront for the first fight, $12.5 million flat fee to fight, and substantially more, depending upon how the fight goes in the rematch. $12.5 million. That's $10 million more than he's ever made before. Joining me right now from St. Simons to get his thoughts is my man Sal Rocky Senecola. Sal, your thoughts, my man.
My thoughts. Karnak the Magician. Remember this? I'll tell you what, Billy, I said this fight's got to happen this year, and it's too big not to have it happen. And I think the suits, the managers, the promoters, they all know it. They're just going through the dance and the facade and just the old shuffle. But it's going to happen. And I think a $12.5 million is a very fair offer. Do I think Deontay Wilder will accept it? No. I think that he probably will accept it as a bargaining start or chip, but I think there's got to be some other concessions along the way. But I think he could definitely entertain that amount as a flat fee. It is $10 million more than he's ever earned. And with the rematch clause, if he is that confident, the Deontay Wilder that we hear every day pounding his chest and saying he wants to get in the ring, I'll tell you what, that'd be more than enough incentive for me to get in the ring with anybody. So you never know. I think it's a smart offer. I think it's a fair offer. But I think, it's a good opening the door. Let's sit down at the table and just to have a little bit of negotiations going on just so we understand where we are and where we will be. So I think it's great. Great start, great communication, and I want to see it developed, signed, sealed, and delivered.
Well, here's the problem. It's the final offer. It's the only offer. It's a take it or leave it Deontay Wilder offer. And here's the thing. I've felt that the team around Deontay Wilder has been misguiding him. I've said that many, many times. And I think that their plan is to cash in on the legacy of 50-0. And think about it, Sal. If Deontay Wilder continues to fight less than stellar opposition, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And instead of using the word cupcake or bum, I'm going to just say less than stellar opposition. Although the last fight I give him credit for, it was the best opponent he had to date in Luis Ortiz. But if Deontay Wilder, 10 fights away from breaking that record, conceivably he could do that in a couple of years, keep fighting less than stellar opposition, and maybe make a lot of money in doing so. However, we've talked about this many, many times. Risk versus reward. Anything can happen unless they have a crystal ball. And if they do, I'd love to borrow it for a couple of hours. But the truth of the matter is in order for him to make that kind of money, $12.5 million for one fight, he's got to fight at least 6, I would think. I mean, even give him the benefit of doubt. Say he makes more after the Luis Ortiz fight. He's got to fight at least 5 times. Even if he gets put in there with his sister 5 times, he still runs a risk, don't you think? I mean, you're saying risk versus reward all the time. I mean, isn't this a reward enough, 12.5 mil?
Yes, it is. I think it's more than enough, and I think it's definitely getting him down to the table. All I'm suggesting is he may just say, hey, hardline, I appreciate the 12.5. I want 15, all said and done. You keep everything else that happens with the pay-per-views and everything else. Give me my $15 million guaranteed, and bam, that's it. You don't know. And you know what? Then you're going to hear the back and forth and why it may fall through. But the bottom line is it's a good offer. Would I take it? Yeah, maybe I'd take it right away with maybe a concession or two. I want to wear my white with greens and red striped boxing shoes versus, no, I'm teasing. I'll tell you what, I think it's a great opening. And if that's the final offer from Anthony Joshua, well, let it be said. But the bottom line is Deontay Wilder's got to seriously think about it because, like we said, the risk versus the reward. He's going to get $12.5 million, bam, right off the bat. Okay, we know the way the money is divided on the table. 10% off the top to the trainer. Everybody has a different scale, but a traditional black and white scale, 10% off the trainer, 33 1/3 to the manager, training expenses, this and that, Uncle Sam. So you know what? Maybe he'll walk away with $4 or $5 million. Still more money than he's ever done. and never had. The bottom line is, yes, he should take the fight, because if he is as confident in his ability to defeat Anthony Joshua in his backyard, then the sky's the limit for the rematch and for Deontay Wilder's career going forward. So if he wants to look at the $12.5 million offered to him now as a little investment to himself, in himself, and say, hey, it's only the beginning, then yeah, I'd shut up and get in the gym and boom, and show up on that date and take the 12.5 and just wait till I send you to the moon, Alice, and then we're going to renegotiate on my half, a backloaded negotiation clause where he can get all the frills, all the benefits, all the other things, and he can be in the driver's seat to make more money.
I agree 100%, because it's a no-brainer in a sense, because Deontay Wilder's in a win-win situation. Number one,
win-win.
He makes, let's face it, $12 million. Forget about, let's just say after every possible expense and after all the octopus's hands that are in his pocket, let's say Deontay walks away clear after taxes and all of his expenses. Let's say he walks away with $5 million. Let's just, I'm being happy. I'm just saying, devil's advocate. Excuse me. Let's say he walks away with $5 million cash. Okay, I got news for you. Even in today's world, that's life-altering money. All right, that's a win-win situation. Now, if he loses the fight, let's look at it from the worst side. If he loses the fight, his quest for 50-0 is shattered. Okay, and him being in a driver's seat isn't happening. But here's the positives. This is why it's win-win. The rematch clause, he's going to make at least another $12.5 million. So I would think that the rematch clause is padded win, lose, or draw at least 15 or 20. So he's going to make another huge payday. Okay, and if he should win the fight, now you're talking about, like you suggest, over the moon type of money. Here we are using UK terms. Outrageous amount of money that he could make should he win. And then, should he win a second time, now he can concentrate on a 50-0 legacy, and nobody can criticize him. He beats the best guy. Listen, I strongly believe. Now, I also have said many times I feel that Deontay Wilder is a one-trick pony. Now, with that one trick, he may have the ability to go very far with the power that he does possess. But I also feel very strongly that he's been mismanaged, that they're taking advantage of him, that they're not putting him in a position because of fear that he might lose. That's the only reason I can see. And now's the time for him to say, hey, you know what? I want it. Don't pound your chest and tell everybody you want the fight and then say, nah, I want $50 million or I want to. Listen, you know what? Forget about what the other guy makes. Forget about what kind of a draw Joshua is in England and that he might walk away with $20 million when all is said and done. Forget about that. Here's your chance to make life-altering money and an opportunity to put your money where your mouth is and go over there, beat Anthony Joshua, and then the rest will be history. And even if he doesn't, like I said, Sal, he still walks away with tons of money for him, his kids, his grandkids, his great-grandkids. No, I think that this is time for him to shut up and sign the paper. He acts like he's never been offered. This time, it's publicly noted, and I think there's pressure on Deontay. I think he's going to look foolish if he doesn't take it.
I think you're right. I think he should definitely take it, and like I said, if he believes in himself, invests this into himself, he will become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He'll have those belts, and he will be in the driver's seat. And when they come here for a rematch, like I said, the sky's the limit. He can even have that in a contract clause. Hey, I'll take the 12.5 now, but when I come out here, I need to have 50% more of the gate than you earn, or more money than you earn, or I want $25 million, or I want $20 million. You take the 12.5. There's a million ways they can look at it, but the bottom line is, yes, it's a great way to look at just grabbing that hook and holding on and getting ready and prepare for the biggest night in boxing this year. And I think that'll be a stellar event. I think it'll be bigger than what we have seen in a long, long time.
There's no question about it. I feel that he should take it. I got a quote from Anthony Joshua concerning it. He says, I want this fight. There's no doubt about it. He's been very vocal about wanting the fight before I was, because my objective was actually to accumulate every single one of the belts. Now I've done that. Wilder's my 100% attention. We're about to make another offer to Wilder's team, a very good offer that should create a lot of interest from Wilder, referring to the offer that was sent yesterday. Also, he wants to know, people to know that Alexander Povetkin is currently the WBA's mandatory challenger, and he's getting his shot first. But if Joshua can get the fight with Deontay Wilder, then all interested parties, including the WBA, must conform to unification first. If Deontay Wilder does not accept this, then under the WBA rules, Anthony Joshua they have 30 days to come up with a deal. So there is no room or time for tic-tac back and forth, Sal. They have to make this now. Deontay's got to put up or shut up right now.
Well, he does. And like you said earlier, I mean, what was the offer supposedly last year going in? Was it $7.5 million plus revenue of the pay-per-view in the United States, something like that?
Well, that was alleged.
Alleged. Okay, that's still alleged. That's $5 million less than what he has been offered by Joshua yesterday. So look at it this way. You know, even if he wants and his team wants the 50-0, the magic number for a heavyweight to attain, to surpass and to beat Rocky Marciano's incredible record of 49 wins, 0 defeats with 43 knockouts. I mean, Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, more so on Deontay Wilder right now, are definitely closer to that reality. Now, can he go through the next 3 to 5 years undefeated if he was on that path? Well, you know, he's going to have to fight somebody, somewhere, somehow. And like I said before many times, there are no guarantees in boxing. Whether you wake up next week, whether you get in a car accident, whether you trip and break a leg or break a hand training or do something, there are no guarantees you're going to be here 3 to 5 years from now in the state that you feel you are today. So take the money, Deontay Wilder. Prove to the world that you are the greatest. You got that equalizing hammer, and you go out there and take the belt and bring all the belts home to the U.S. and then have a rematch. And you can live happily ever after, no matter what anybody has to say to you. And I think it's tremendous. I think it's a great offer by Anthony Joshua. I think it's a great, great start to have a great two-fight episode between these two giant heavyweight champions.
Yep. I agree. And it seems that most of the people that are commenting in all the chat rooms that we're involved with agree. So if you're watching on our YouTube channel, which we appreciate, we're trying to build that presence, even though we've been there for a while. There's also a super chat opportunity, so if you want some of your thoughts read on air, our official chat room up on BillyCBoxing.com, and our simulcast chat room, which is going on right now in Facebook or on Facebook. But anyway, big news coming out about this fight, and I can't. I personally can't wait for it. Now, Sal, you know, we have a bunch of other things to talk about, and something that's going to make you sick, because it certainly made me sick. Yeah, it definitely did. As far as, just to close real quick, and then we're going to take a break, but Anthony Joshua Team Joshua offering Deontay Wilder $12.5 million contract to fight him in the UK, which also includes a rematch clause, which, by the way, if Deontay wins, it's not a fixed clause. I mean, they get to renegotiate, or they get to add money. The rematch clause, if AJ wins, it's mapped out. If he loses, they get to negotiate. Deontay Wilder, obviously his revenue streams grow. But the second fight is already outlined in the rematch that it would take place in the U.S. So 12.5, two-fight deal. Deontay's very foolish if he doesn't take it. If his team advises him not to, Deontay Wilder should get a new team. It's that simple. This is the fight that we want. It's the fight that's being offered. It's a fight that has to be made quickly, because if not, the red tape involved surrounding Anthony Joshua owning all the other belts but the WBC will require him to systematically perform his mandatory obligations. One other thing I wanted to add. Yesterday we were talking about Floyd Mayweather moving over to the MMA and all of this stuff. And we also mentioned at the end that his one of his bodyguards was shot in the leg when they were leaving a club early Monday morning or late Sunday night, however you want to look at it. Well, it was an update on that. The Atlanta police have now specifically determined that it was not a random shooting, that the alleged shooter was specifically targeting that group of vehicles. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Wow.
One last thing I wanted to mention, speaking of Floyd, somebody sent me a video of Mike Tyson, and they were asking Mike Tyson what he thought about Floyd Mayweather saying that he's the best ever and that he was better than Ali and all of this stuff. And the look on it was priceless. The look on Mike Tyson's face. The look on Mike Tyson's face. And you know what he said? He said Mike Tyson said Floyd Mayweather is a very small, scared man. He won't even take his own kids to school. He's a scared man. Will not even take his kids to school. And he shakes his head. Wow. It's hard to disagree. Either he feels that he doesn't want to be involved in his kid's life or has to have his bodyguards around. I don't know, but it was interesting to see. Anyway, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, I got a statement from the WBA main guy, Gilberto Mendoza, and what he says about Canelo and Triple G. It's going to make you sick. Don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
At a high-end dishwasher, go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
Similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604. Listen.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace? Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And I'll tell you, Sal, before we went on air, I was saying, can you hear me? I was pulling to you. Can you hear me? I got this new headset. And let me tell you something. It is so much better than the old. I'm like blasting my headset. I'm blasting my ears apart. I'm half deaf.
I'm going to go out and get a new headset myself.
Thank God that our system has this. It's a regulator. So, other people aren't hearing. We have to maintain certain volume levels for TV and radio, et cetera, and we have this governor, so to speak, on the show that maintains that, and we still need to hear each other and all of that stuff. But man, I've watched you on the camera several times, like when we come back from a break and it goes blasting your. It did the same thing to me just now. I was like, damn, that's loud.
You're funny because all of a sudden, I hear the bam. It's like getting shot in the head. It's like, whoa.
I know. It wakes you right up, right? As promised. Normally I read the emails all at once and stuff. But my man Luke Thunder Breslin, he says, his subject of his email was from says WBA Madness, and he sent me a quote, and this was, and I got the quote, and I forgot to mention. I can't believe it slipped me the last time we did that. WBA is bad for boxing. That was our title. Blah blah blah. But Luke sends the a reminder to me, and he says, "Sorry if I can't remember if you guys brought this up the other day, but I wanted to make sure that you got a copy of this article. It's the president of the WBA making a comment about Canelo's failed test." So this is what the WBA president, Gilberto Jesus Mendoza, said about Canelo failing the drug test, the performance-enhancing drug test, for his fight against Triple G. Now, this was, I believe, a day or two prior to Canelo officially removing himself from this fight. WBA President Gilberto Jesus Mendoza said this, and I quote, the WBA believes that it was an unintentional mistake by Canelo Alvarez. My first reaction was that I believed in Canelo's innocence. He has a long career in the professional boxing and has always proven to be a clean athlete. It seems that the issue of clenbuterol is already a common case in Mexico. On previous occasions, fellow organizations have had to study this cause, and therefore they know more about it. But I know that the sample is at the levels expected from the consumption of meat. This was, by the way, that statistic was given out by Team Canelo. Never have we heard that from the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Right. He says he already said that he would submit to all the protocols that are required from here on out. The WBA will continue to stand with Canelo as it has always done. This the test that he was going to. This is the sickening part. He's referring to the test that, keep in mind, that Canelo tested positive. He said this was going to add a bit of drama to the fight. Sal, here's a president of a sanctioning body that I claimed the other day was exactly wrong, was what's wrong with boxing. And here he's saying that, trying to spin it, that it would actually add some drama to the fight. So in other words, what he's saying is, it's okay to cheat and to put yourself in a position where you're actually endangering the health and well-being of your opponent, but it adds a little drama to the fight, so maybe we can all make a few bucks. Sal, what's your thoughts?
Well, you know my thoughts, and I will articulate them. It's continuing to be dug deeper and deeper in a black eye, because bottom line is, you don't make certain concessions when it comes to an issue like this, and you have certain expectations. And you know what? Sure, it adds to the drama of the fight, but the fight, the rules were broken, the rules were crossed, the rules and regulations have our attention, so we've got to address it accordingly. And you do that with the stipulations and the rules and regulations that are in place to protect other fighters and to protect fighters from themselves, if they are taking some artificial substance or some substance that's going to enhance their performance but do damage in the long run. So the bottom line is, I think that that is a bunch of hogwash. And you know what? There's enough drama in boxing, enough drama in the world to create and to make a situation that much more plausible. So I don't like it. I don't like the statement.
Yeah, well, it's a terrible statement. It's it's disheartening that a guy who's supposed to be I just want to make a comment right now. I'm trying to build our YouTube presence, and I'm looking for the YouTube community, the YouTube boxing community, to subscribe to us, pass the word around, etc., etc. And we've built a really cool chat room. And, I have somebody in there who I respect, who's actually a moderator. You got to be cool, my man. I'm not going to mention any names. Got to be cool with the moderation. I want people to be able to have their own opinions and be able to express them in our chat rooms. I don't want anyone to personally attack anyone else in the chat room. That is off limits. But anything else, whether you agree with what we're talking about or whether you disagree, if you have an opinion and you can present it in a professional manner, so to speak, or a grown-up manner, I'm all for it. So don't threaten anybody with you're banning them, you're doing this, because you'll lose your wrench pretty quick. But anyway, my truth, the bottom line is, we have a guy in the a sanctioning body, a good sanctioning body, that not a good one. I think it's the worst, but many fighters want it. But the truth of the matter is that a guy like that can't say it would have added drama to the fight. I mean, you're putting another fighter in harm's way. That's ridiculous, Sal. It was a stupid statement, and I hope that people realize that this is the type of organization that the WBA is. And this is why I think it's the worst of the top. I really think it's the worst. But what do you think, real quick, Sal? I mean,
well, I like I said, I don't like it. It's almost like they're opening the door to make concessions on something that it should be a hard line stance, as we may see coming from the Nevada Athletic Commission, and it's just where we are. Hey, look, you can't keep lowering the benchmark. If you continue to lower the benchmark, all chaos and rules and regulations, what are they in place for? So the bottom line is, you've got to stay strong. You've got to choose your line of divide, and you've got to stay on the right side. And to make concessions, to make insinuations, guess what? To add to the drama. Come on, the guy broke the rules. Whether he ate a burger that was loaded with this stuff, or whether it was part of his training regimen that he was unknowingly or knowingly adding to his supplements. I can't say. But the bottom line is the rules are in place for a certain reason, and they should be respected and adhered to. And there shouldn't be any concessions or wiggle room or drama that's brought into it any further.
Hey, so what do you have, lawn service going on? My new headset's picking everything up.
Are you kidding me? I got the landscapers out. I feel like I'm on Caddyshack and everything's going on around me.
Unbelievable.
I'm looking for the little beaver.
It's unbelievable. We were getting snow yesterday. We were getting snow. You're out there. You got the guys
out there. He's shoveling around the pool. I'm looking at the landscaper over there. He's trimming the hedges, and I hear motors going in my left ear or my right ear.
That's funny. I'm this new headset.
And you hear it with your headset. Look at you.
Hey, with the new headset, I can hear what the mimes are saying, for God's sakes. But anyway, hey, listen. Normally, we really love the super chat in the chat room on YouTube. I think it's really cool, and I'm glad that all the guys talked me into it. And there's a guy in there that wanted me to do something that I have done, and I asked him for a super chat, but because he was being threatened, I'm going to give it to him for nothing just before we go to break. So we are going to go to break here, but Sal, I don't know if you ever saw it or whatever, but and I know you're going to be coming back. We're scheduled to have Larry come on for a little bit. Then we're going to do our blast from the past, Wilfred Benitez. But Teddy Atlas was a guy. I got to meet Teddy a bunch of times. And sometimes when he first was working with ESPN, I met him at a Baby Joe Macy event up in Buffalo, and he was really cool. And he kind of changed over the years, and his ego is really second to none. I mean, when they fly him places, they got to give him a couple of extra seats for his ego. But one of the most classic things that Teddy Atlas ever did, in my opinion, aside from yelling and screaming and spitting all over the place during the broadcast on ESPN, which I actually missed, by the way, was when he was training Timothy Bradley. And it was a rah-rah speech in between corners, in between rounds. And he's in the corner. And he kind of is grabbing Timothy Bradley, and he's like, he does... Well, something like this. He's like, "Oh, Jesus, Timmy Bradley, what are you doing? What do firemen do, Tim? What do firemen do, Tim? You got to tell me, what do firemen do?" And Timothy Bradley looks at him. He's like, "Put out fires, Teddy. They put out fires." And it was classic.
They carry it down
and
the
I loved it. But in any event, hey, listen, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, what do firemen do? They put out fires, I think, But,
hey, is that our new trivia question?
No. But anyway, listen, we're going to be back we got the trivia question. We may have a winner.
Great.
But we'll be back.
Do a great service to our community, so God bless all the firemen.
If this was a Teddy Atlas split, had nothing to do with the firemen. But listen, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
Similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
This is important news for women using birth control.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.kofantasyboxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.kofantasyboxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.kofantasyboxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the #1 show in the country, talking boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us today. And joining us right now, Boxing Hall of Famer, New Jersey Boxing Commissioner, my main man, Larry Hazzard. Good morning, Larry.
Morning, Billy. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad, my man, not too bad. Lots of stuff to talk to you about. A couple of things I wanted to bring up quickly because they're actually our topics today before we get into some other stuff. But I was forwarded a quote that I read from the WBA, Gilberto Jesus Mendoza. This was just before Triple G backed out of the fight. And I'll spare you everything else, but one of the comments that he said concerning the fact that Canelo had tested positive for the clarinbuterol, that they support Canelo, but he feels that it was going to add drama to the fight. I find that comment kind of appalling, since one of the issues about performance-enhancing drugs is to prevent one fighter from having an advantage over another, but more importantly, putting that other fighter in harm's way by having a foreign substance that aids to their productivity or performance or whatever. What's your thoughts on that kind of a statement coming from a guy who's supposed to be, one of these, a president of a sanctioning body that people vie to go win his titles?
Well, I find that to be kind of odd. What type of drama is he talking about? I mean, could it be that his choice of words were just a little bit confused? Maybe he didn't really understand totally what he was saying when he used the word drama. You know, I really don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for an explanation for a statement like that when, you know, he represents an organization that's supposed to be upholding high standards in boxing, and certainly one which should be at the forefront of addressing this issue of performance enhancing drugs. What does he mean by it adding drama? You know, I would have to, ask him, is that exactly, what does he mean, by using the term drama? What does drama mean in this particular instance?
Well, what he meant by that was that, the drama of, Canelo's, tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. Is Triple G going to beat him? Does he beat him? Does he not? It's a stupid statement, no matter how you try to justify it or whatever. But if anybody tries to justify, I'm not saying you, but, the reason why they brought it up to me is because I had made this statement earlier in the week, or maybe it was late last week. I don't even remember anymore. But the WBA, when they ordered Povetkin now to fight Anthony Joshua, this was the topic was they're bad for boxing. It's one of the reasons that makes the sport bad, because here we are, everybody's kind of on the same page. Even the WBC took a step back and said, well, Deontay doesn't have a mandatory for 8 months or whatever it is. The IBF has been silent on it. He just beat Parker, so he doesn't have anything. And the WBA comes out and says, well, he's got to fight Povetkin now. He's got 30 days to make it, or we're stripping him. And this is the same organization that already has a regular champion. Anthony Joshua is actually their super champion, which is a bogus title anyway. You got super champion, regular champion, and then he's ordering a mandatory to possibly ruin the showdown between Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. So and this just adds to it, which is a great segue, because Anthony Joshua, his team has made an offer to Deontay Wilder to fight next, to avoid the BS with the Povetkin fight, since they only have 30 days to get a deal done. A rumor has it, and I've confirmed with multiple sources, that the offer was for 2 fights. It's a 2-fight deal, the first one being in the UK, with the purse set for Deontay Wilder at $12.5 million. Larry, that's $10 million more than he ever made before. $12.5 million for Deontay to go over and fight Anthony Joshua in England. Then he's guaranteed win, lose, or draw a rematch. And should he win, obviously substantially more. Larry, what's your thoughts? Do you think Deontay has to take this deal? And if he doesn't, is all his pounding on his chest all BS?
Hey, come on, man. I mean, that's a rhetorical question, isn't it? Does he have to take this deal? He has no choice but to take that deal. And if he doesn't, you're absolutely right. All of the pounding on his chest, all of the I want you, and, I'm going to knock you out, I'm the greatest heavyweight, and I'm the champion, all that, he may as well go trash all of that if he doesn't take this. And he's already guaranteed a rematch, win, lose, or draw. Come on. And, I'm sure, and I hope that he really feels that he can win, because I'm kind of feeling that he could win also. I'm not so sure now that Joshua, based on Joshua's last performance and based on Deontay's last performance, because in my opinion, like in sports, especially boxing and others, you're only as good as your last performance. But sometimes, you have to give a fighter a pass, because they deserve a pass sometimes when they've always turned in good performances, excellent performances, and then they may have a lackluster outing, because some fighters, as I always say, they oftentimes only fight to the level of the opposition. So we've discussed this before about him in the Parker fight, where, both, it was strategic, and you have to have an appreciation for boxing strategies, and, both of those guys, it wasn't a terrible fight, but, if you're one of those type of fans that like a lot of action, of course, you thought it was boring, and it just didn't meet up to the standards that you normally like to see. But right now, the jury's still out in terms of who would win that fight. And if I was forced to bet, I would have to go with Deontay Wilder right now, just based on the last outing of both. So with this offer, I don't see any way in which Deontay could turn that down. And if his handlers aren't encouraging him to take that offer, I think he needs to reconsider, who's doing business for him, because I can't see a better deal being put on the table right now. The $12 million is like maybe 3 times more than he's ever earned. And then certainly with the rematch, especially after a good performance, it might even be more. So
you must have been listening to the show because I said almost word for word what you just said. Listen, about his handlers. If they advise him not to take this fight, it's clearly not in his best interest. Deontay Wilder's last fight against Luis Ortiz, he made the most money that he ever made, and I think it was slightly over $2 million. So right off the bat, 12.5 is $10 million at least more. And if it automatically has a rematch clause built in, win, lose, or draw, he's guaranteed at least that again. And it's from what I understand, if he loses, the rematch clause is still higher than 12.5. So, and if he wins, he gets to renegotiate that. So it's a stupid move not to take the fight. If they're going to cry and say they want 50-50, I go back to what I always say, 50-50 of what? You're talking about 50% of all the profitable revenue. You know that people can fudge that. Listen, I say if I'm Deontay Wilder, 12.5 right now in hand with a 2-fight deal thrown in my face is a no-brainer opportunity.
It's a no-brainer.
And you're right. If Deontay wins this fight, Larry, all bets are off. Listen, the only other option that Deontay Wilder has if he doesn't take this fight is to pursue the 50-0 record that is only substantial in the heavyweight division, and he could go on and fight 10 more less than stellar opponents to get to 50-0. But I ask you this: even if he chooses to do that and make history, does that historical importance of 50-0 and the 10 fights that would take him several years to accomplish, even if he's busy and even if he's fighting his sister 10 times, can he make the same amount of money that he could make in a year's time in 2 fights?
Probably not. Probably not. And to risk trying to go for the 50-0 makes no sense, because now you're kind of being hypocritical. Not kind of, you're being very hypocritical when you talk about being the greatest. You see, when you start talking about being the greatest fighter, then you have to step up to the challenge of fighting the best. Okay, right now, the best heavyweight out there is Joshua to fight Wilder. So Wilder has no choice. If he's going to fight the best, then he has no choice but Joshua, or he may as well go somewhere and just be quiet. I don't think that chasing a record, okay, in my opinion, is not as valuable as having had a career where the fans can recognize you as a fighter who fought all of the best fighters from your era. Okay, even if that means not breaking a record. Again, we're back to this 0, 50-0, 30-0, and all of that. I knew a fighter once who had a record of something like 39-0. He had a better record than Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali combined, and then he fought some guy, some bum who he lost to. Okay, and why did that happen? Because the record that he had accumulated was he beat a bunch of nobodies. So records don't always tell the story. It's who they put in front of you, and fighters are there to entertain the fans. The great fighters, all of the great fighters from the past, fought the great fighters that were in front of them. They fought the best in their class, and that's how they became recognized as great fighters. So if that's what Deontay Wilder wants to be known for, as the greatest, and in the future when they talk about great heavyweight fighters and they mention his name, then he could rest assured that the fans appreciated the fact that he fought the best that were during his era. So he either fights Joshua, and if he doesn't take this deal, man, I'm telling you, no, I wasn't listening to any show, Billy. It's a no-brainer. How do you walk away from this type of deal? It's crazy if you walk away from this.
You're 100% right about we can't criticize a fighter for not fighting great fighters if they weren't available during their era. But if they fight everyone that's available during their era, and even if it happens to be an era that is less than stellar, it's not the fighter's fault. All they can prove is that they fought everyone available at that time. If Deontay passes on this fight, he's going to go down in history as a guy who didn't fight AJ when he had the chance, regardless of his accomplishments. And the risk factor here, even if you choose the record breaker, if you choose the historical aspect, it's not like balloons are going to come raining down at the end of that 50th fight and all this money is going to be there. It has to be marketed. This is the weakest link in Deontay Wilder's career, has been lack of marketing for the man. And the team that he's surrounded himself with is the reason. So why would he not take this money now when it's really going to benefit him? And the other side of the coin is the risk, even if he chooses to fight those 10 fights to get to that 50-0, and they handpick all these less than stellar opponents, the beauty of the heavyweight division and the reason why we all love it is because even somebody's sister who's a heavyweight could land a punch. So he could find himself, I'm not saying it would happen, but he could find himself one day against a cupcake and looking up at the lights and waking up in the dressing room and saying, what happened? And all of that risk went out the window, and he still doesn't get the $12.5 million payday. No.
Yeah, and we know that it has happened to great fighters.
Many times.
I mean, and the guys that they fought weren't really cupcakes. When Asim Rahman, when he landed that shot on Lennox Lewis, I mean, it was like he closed his eyes and woke up in heaven, okay? And when Buster Douglas went to Japan, okay, and defeated Mike Tyson, that wasn't, it wasn't all like, hey, it could happen. Everybody certainly expected Tyson and Lennox Lewis to win those fights. There was no way, no way could Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson. Mike felt that way also, but you saw what happened. So it could always happen in the sport of boxing, especially in heavyweight boxing. Especially in a fight, anything can happen. I would not risk, and I don't think Deontay, is going to take that risk. Take the money, man. Take the money. Hey, look what he can do. He can take the money, and invest that money or put that money away, where now he's in a position to retire whenever he feels like it, a wealthy man, or he can do that, plus he can keep fighting, and make more money. So he's looking at a situation that offers him the best of all worlds in the sport of boxing, in the heavyweight division. So I cannot see, even his management, who I don't think perhaps has done the best job in, promoting his career. I can't see them turning this down. I really can't.
It makes no sense. And you're right, because I got something else I want to talk to you. But you're right. I said the same thing. I said even at $12.5 million, if you deduct the taxes and you deduct all his expenses and all those octopus quantity of hands he's got in his pocket, and he does, when you take all that money away, and he's going to be left, let's just for argument's sake, on a low end, $5 million that he pockets himself. That's life.
Probably a little more.
All right, but I'm figuring low. So $5 million is life-altering money. He like you just said, word for word, I agree with you, that he's set for life. His kids are set for life. So to risk that and go an alternate route when his biggest payday to date was his last fight, slightly over $2 million, would be utterly foolish. And if his advisors actually pick up the phone and tell him, hang tight, Deontay, we're going to hold out, we're going to get more, I would fire them all right then, and I would sign with Hearn and do the fight, because they're not looking out for Deontay's best interest if they tell him to walk away from this. They're not. But
that's right. I agree.
Anyway, Larry, this past weekend, we saw a very entertaining fight between Jarrett Hurd and Erslandy Lara. The scores came out 114, 113 across the board. One judge had it 114, 113 for Lara, and the other two had it for Hurd. I actually scored it for Lara. I thought that Lara landed the more solid punches, although Hurd was a coming forward nonstop machine, which I absolutely loved. And I actually, he reminds me of the first George Foreman. He delivers his punches like that, never ran out of gas. Seek and destroy was his attitude, and that's what Hurd did. What was your thoughts on that fight? Did you think that they got it right?
I thought they got it right, Billy, but I could see why you scored it for Lara, because when the fight was over and I was scoring the fight, and I was right on with that score, too. I think I had it I had it the same way. It's like a point.
But the other way. You had it for Hurd, though. The same score the other way.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I'm okay.
Hurd. But when I put the pen down, and I had a couple of guys that we were together watching the fight, I said, hey, look, nobody's going to be wrong on this fight. Okay, that's what I said first.
Right.
Before the decision. I said, nobody's going to be wrong here. And they want to know why. I said, because this fight could have gone either way. I said, and I'm telling you how judges are going to look at this. You're going to have some people who know how to judge a fight are going to see Lara as perhaps scoring the most effective punches, okay, and especially in the early rounds where he was out. I think he got out ahead. I said, but a lot of people, and I think the judges, are going to be like, I'm thinking that this guy Hurd, and he looks so much bigger than Lara to me.
God, he looked like a heavyweight fighting a middleweight.
And he just kept coming forward. And I said, they are not going to see those punches as being effective because he never took a backward step. And he scored, especially, he started scoring a lot more effectively, I would say, after round 6, 7, and those later rounds. And then when he knocked him down in the last round, I said, the knockdown is really what's going to pull it over to his side.
And it did.
And I think I was right.
You were.
But I had heard, but it was a very, very interesting fight, a very entertaining fight, and that's what you call a sweet science, once again.
Yep.
We always talk about the sweet science. That's what we saw.
Well,
you know.
What I liked about, you see, the problem is when you have a fighter coming forward throwing punches, he a lot of times gets the nod, but from a much larger score. What I liked about this is that the scores were close, and that means the judges were actually judging the fight, because a lot of those punches did not land flush on Lara. He was blocking them with his gloves. He was turning, but his punches, even though there were few, less than Hurd threw, his all landed right on the button. It was like there was an X, So that's why I did not have a problem with the score. But as I'm running out of time, the other fight, DeGal against Truax. Now, there was an example of a similar fight. But the difference was Truax was coming forward, and he wasn't being effective aggression. He wasn't landing punches. But on the judges' scorecard, and I got a really good email from one of our listeners, and he says what he found, he says, and I circled it and said, I'm going to talk to Larry about this. He said what he found interesting was that all judges scored the same round, 10-9 for Truax. Now, this was the round that Bird, the referee, deducted a point from DeGal for using his elbow, which actually was his shoulder. I think the Bird family needs to step aside for a little while. But listen to this. What happened? All three judges scored that round 10-9 for Khalib Truax. But the truth of the matter was that DeGale was winning that round, and then Bird deducted the point. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You talk about this all the time, and the way you get a round that gets swung in the wrong direction. Right. Now, I'm not a professional judge, nor did I even stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night to say I'm a professional judge. But the way I thought it worked, Larry, and I need you to straighten me out here, is you go and you make the point deductions after you score the round. So, in other words, if I score this round 10-9 in favor of DeGale, and then I say referee Bird deducted a point, doesn't that score become 9-9?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure.
That's right. 9-9 or 10-10, which is the same thing.
Right.
Follow me?
Well, a 10. I thought 10-point must means the winner gets the 10, and then the loser of that round, the points are adjusted depending upon if it was a knockdown, blah blah blah. But you take those points away after you determine who won the round.
Yes. So
overall round winner. So in this case, all three judges take the point away and the round. You know,
and swing the other way. Yeah. See, there we go. Okay, and let me give you another example, Billy. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, here's another example in that fight. Okay, instant replay. Okay, round 3 when with the headbutt, the replay showed that it was clearly not a punch. Okay, that was clearly not a punch. That was a headbutt. Now, the point that I'm making here is that here is a close fight that has to be stopped, perhaps, because he had a nasty cut, okay? That being ruled as a punch could have made the whole difference, okay, in that fight without making the correction, because the referee ruled that headbutt was a punch. And it was not a punch. So, you know, that's something that came to my mind right away looking at that. You know, the importance of instant replay in boxing.
Well, and he didn't really make an announcement. They showed it on replay. And once again, you know, Bob Bennett says, we're sticking to our call. You know, I mean, this is the guy that gets thrown out into it's almost, I almost feel bad for him that he's everything that's negative, they make, okay, Bob, you're up, kid. You gotta go stand up for the rest of us and look like the idiot. You know, and he's like, nope, it was not a headbutt. You know, we're watching a replay. It was a headbutt. You know, but anyway,
headbutt.
Yeah, no. But anyway, I'm glad you straightened that out because that was one of the things. So, but anyway, a slow weekend for boxing this week. Hopefully, we'll have a lot to talk about with the acceptance or denial of the. Anthony Joshua offer to Deontay Wilder. And, you know, the one thing I want to just add as I got to go here, Larry, you know, the funny thing about it is if Deontay Wilder's team was able to make a counteroffer and say, no, we'll tell you what, we'll give you $20 million if you come over here and fight us, it would be a totally different ball game. If they were in a position to be able to do that, I think the tables would turn and Wilder might be able to make more money. But since no one's willing to open up the checkbook, they have no choice but to either accept or go in a different direction. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I think he's going to take that deal. You know, it's like a no-brainer, Billy. I mean, those guys, I don't say that they've done the greatest job, you know, promoting him and, you know, getting him as much money as he could get. But you know, they are fight guys. You know, DeBella's been around. Those guys, they've been around. I know he's got Al Heyman in there in the equation somewhere, and Al's no dummy, you know. So I don't see any other choice but to take that. I say he's going to take it. Okay, I think me personally, I've become somewhat of a Wilder fan. I think that Wilder, he proved something to me in that last fight. Okay. Oh, he got up off the canvas, and he did what great fighters, what they normally do. They find a way to win, and he did that. So I was impressed. He showed me he had heart, and he showed me that he was a real fighter. So right now, You know, I'm riding with Wilder right now, okay? So I think he's going to take that, and I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup.
Larry, I appreciate it, and we'll look forward to you next week, my man.
Okay, Billy.
All right, have a great one.
You too.
That's Larry Hazzard, Boxing Hall of Famer, with his thoughts, and as usual, I agree with everything he said. I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, Alex Perpali, our blast from the past this week, Wilfred Benitez. Don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks. Like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology used to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604. Listen to
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
I guess that's my cue. And we're back. Yeah. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us. It's that time again. It's time for one of our longest running segments, the Blast from the Past. This week's Blast from the Past is being brought to us in part by KOFantasyBoxing.com. Check it out. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Sign up today. And our Blast from the Past is also being brought to us in part by the Title Bout Championship computer game, the same game that my man Alex uses to do the fight simulations, and the same game that we have on the line right now for our latest trivia question, and the same game that you can download right now by visiting our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and clicking on the banner. This week's Blast from the Past, as per request from one of you guys, features former multi-division world champion and boxing Hall of Famer Wilfred Benitez. And joining us right now to tell us all about Mr. Benitez is my man, Mr. Alex Perpali. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Billy C. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How you doing?
Pretty good. Sound working? Everything's good?
There you go. I have this new headset that I had to put on today, and the other one was fine. It just was they start to wear and pieces of the thing falls out, and I thought it was more of my hair, but it wasn't. But it's like so much better. I hear, like I was listening, I heard a mime talking. That's how good they are, you know. So it was pretty interesting, you know. I usually
you could hear the mice singing on their way to work.
They were, you know, they're singing in unison. But the mime chatter was really blowing me away. But anyway, Wilfred Benitez, tell us about this guy.
Yeah, this guy is a major badass and someone that probably does not get quite the recognition that he deserves. He should be looked at as right up there with the four kings, Leonard Hearns, Hagler, and Duran.
I was just going to say Duran.
And of course, you know, he's linked to those guys because he did fight most of them. He was the youngest.
Obviously, you invested in a good phone case.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Well, hey, whatever case Alex has, get it, because he just threw it across the room. But
I do that all the time. Yeah, it's amazing how durable it is. But anyway, so Wilfred Benitez, yes, he was born September 12th, 1958. He's 5'10" tall. He won titles at 140 and 147. And he was born in Morrisania section of the Bronx. He was the last of 8 children born to Gregorio and Clara Benitez. And before he was even 8, he started boxing. His father was the one who trained him. Both, you know, first got him into the sport and then trained him all the way into his professional career. Eventually, they split. Their relationship was, you know, back and forth, as a lot of fathers and son boxing relationships are. I would even venture to say non-boxing relationships. But what his father used to do, they used to go to the schoolyard of Public School 124 on East 160th Street, and he would draw a square in chalk, and they would have fights. He would charge a couple of bucks to get, you know, kids, you know, of the kids who watched, and he'd put his son in there, and you know, they'd have like battle royals, but well, not battle royals. I take that back. More like a Royal Rumble, where, you know, or series of bouts where one guy would fight, you know, and then he'd fight the winner, that kind of thing. And his son used to do pretty good. And I mean, at the end of those afternoons, it would be, you know, he'd go home with lumps and bruises, but he'd have $1, you know, and that, just making that $1 was more than Gregorio had made as a child, you know, in the tough streets of Puerto Rico. So, of course, you know, there was this sort of ethic that the father was teaching him there. Of course, the thing that was a little interesting is that I'm not sure, you know, strict work ethic really went very far on Wilfred Benitez, because he was a guy who loved to party. He was notoriously inconsistent about training. In fact, he supposedly only trained 2 weeks for Sugar Ray Leonard. He loved the ladies, Billy C., and he liked disco dancing. He would come home during training camp at 5 or 6 in the morning at times, and his father said, "He is making love too much."
You know, one thing, he also won the junior middleweight championship too, Alex. He beat Maurice Hope, and he had that reign, which included a victory. He included a victory over Roberto Duran, and I believe Tommy Hearns was the one that beat him. That was his last title that Tommy Hearns. That was the last title that he held. Maurice Hope was I was just talking to someone about him. He's one of those underrated fighters that was pretty good, you know, that people have forgotten about, and Benitez won that third belt off of him. But Wilfred Benitez...
That's my bad, too, because that's one of the, in terms of his career, that is such a highlight knockout.
Oh, I know. Well, the thing about Benitez is he was the complete, like you said, you know, as the sweet science, he was basically a complete fighter. He displayed it all. He could box, he could brawl, he could work his defense. I mean, this guy displayed it all and gave it his all. Was not afraid to engage, which ultimately would be his undoing, unfortunately, for the state he's in now. But came around during a time when, like you mentioned, he should be included. It should be the Fab Five, and they should put his name in there too. And Sugar Ray Leonard never fought him. Is that correct?
No, Sugar Ray Leonard and he had a tremendous fight, and Ray Leonard stopped him with just 6 seconds to go. The thing about Benitez was defensively he was an absolute wizard. People compare him to like Nicolino Lachey, to Willie Pep, but you're right, he could brawl as well. And certainly that idea of taking a punch was his undoing in life. He's very sick now. You know, he suffers from post-traumatic encephalopathy. So, as is often the case in the Blast from the Past, as much as we, you know, praise and honor these guys for the careers they have, they exact a tremendous toll on all these athletes. And yeah, I mean, he was very, very quick, very hard to hit. He could almost, it was as if people used to say he had a radar. He could see punches before they were coming and get out of the way. He could easily do it with his back against the ropes. He was just really a tremendous fighter, but as well as him being a defensive wizard, he could also brawl, and that fight with Leonard was terrific. And the thing, and this is just to go to talk about how his relationship with his dad was weird. Before the fight with Leonard, Benitez's father actually penned an article for Ring magazine detailing how Wilfred, his son, would lose, and he did it to motivate him. I just recently saw the I, Tonya movie, the Tonya Harding movie, and it sounds like Benitez's father was a little like Tonya Harding's mom.
Tonya Harding was like my idol at that time. I was like, oh, she's good. Hey, by the way, I always, for some,
you got to see that movie. It's really good.
I know I must have just sounded like an idiot about Sugar Ray Leonard, because that was one of his great fights. It was actually the first knockout loss and first loss of Benitez's career. For some reason, I always get Arguello and Benitez mixed up when I'm thinking of Sugar Ray Leonard, because that was the guy that Leonard never fought, right? Alexis Arguello, right? So
and Aaron Pryor.
Aaron Pryor. Oh, that's right. That was a fight that should have been made. Those two guys, the Aaron Pryor fight was the one. That's the one that really everybody wanted to see, and it didn't happen. Hey, listen, I got to give you a shout out, Alex, because my man Johnston just gave us a super chat. And it's all about you. He says, massive shout out to Alex Perpali. Always learn something from the Blast from the Past every week. The College of Knowledge. teaching us kids. That's College of Knowledge. Jeez.
College of Knowledge. I like that.
That's you. Yeah, I figured you would like that. That's
Thanks
right.
a lot.
That's
I
right.
appreciate that.
That's right up your alley. And we thank Johnston for his support. But just to reiterate what I was saying, he had one draw in his career, and that was against Harold Weston in 1977. He did fight for his first title in his 26th fight. He beat a Hall of Famer in Antonio Caventes. I mean, 74 wins, 9 losses, and 3 draws is what Antonio had when he stepped in the ring, and squeaked out a split decision over 15, and then just fought the best of the best all the way up until he lost that last title to Tommy Hearns and continued to fight. And that might have been the nail in the coffin in terms of, his demise.
Yeah, that was just really unfortunate that his fight continued. But you're right, just 17 years old when he defeated Cervantes, 25-0, 20 KOs. And, the way that Burt Randolph Sugar refers to him, he is in the Boxing Greatest Fighters book, the one we like to talk about here on the Blast. He's ranked number 96th in that book. But it was like he could barely shave as a 17-year-old. He still had pimples as a sure sign of puberty in those early fights. But Sugar refers to him, he says that Wilfredo Benitez was so cocky he could strut sitting down. So that gives you an idea of what this guy's attitude was like. But yeah, there were times that he was supposed to spar one afternoon in New. This was leading up to the Ray Leonard fight. Benitez's father had been waiting for him. He was supposed to spar one afternoon in New York City, and I'm sorry, this was before the Randy Shields bout, and Benitez didn't show up. No one knew where he was. They couldn't find him. Finally, a few days later, he gets a call. They get a call, and he's at Disney World with his girlfriend, sightseeing. So, there were times that he did not take training seriously, and that's what's so amazing. We run into that every now and then with the Blast, is where you have a guy that was so incredibly good, and you wonder. I guess that's just human nature. All of us have our sort of underachiever moments. But when you think about a guy that was such a pinnacle of the sport, to think that maybe, there were some times he wasn't even at his best, and he was remarkable. But yeah, he did fight too long. And, that Maurice Hope knockout is one of those things that is just absolutely amazing. It took them 3 minutes to revive Maurice Hope and 5 more to get him standing up. People should go and check out the knockout on YouTube. It's amazing. And you see Benitez, after he nails him, he kind of just has this self-assured, like, I knew I was going to get him look on his face. And he said, I took my mouthpiece out. I knew he wouldn't get up. And it's just, it really is one of those. You've probably seen it before if you're a boxing fan, even if you didn't know who it was.
It's funny. Well, it's not funny, but when you get those classic knockouts, and then when you look at those fighters' careers after, it really is, I don't know how much more proof people need to see the damage that those horrific knockouts do to a fighter and the rest of their career. That's why I keep saying that the best thing we could do for this sport is to force a fighter, when they become a professional, before you issue a federal ID, to make them undergo a head scan, so that the doctors have prior to boxing professionally, head scan on file, so that they can do comparison tests, and maybe we could save some of these fighters' futures when something is detected, because then you could take a look after a fight like that and say, oh, look at the change here. This was original one. This was after, the first knockdown in his career. This one's after this fight. Look at the difference. And it gives the doctors a chance to make an educated decision, rather than just what the book says. Oh, that looks like a normal scan, And same thing could be said with Benitez. That long fight that we talked about earlier against Sugar Ray Leonard. He would be stopped 3 more times after that. What are you doing, building an addition?
I'm sorry.
Jeez.
I'm sorry, I knocked over.
Come on, man. I just told you how sensitive my new headset is. I hear the ants arguing, for God's sakes, all right? So, come on, man. Can't you do your building after the show? I mean, come on. But, I mean, this, in all seriousness, a guy like Benitez continued to fight. I mean, for all intent purposes, after he lost his decision, a close decision, by the way, to Tommy Hearns in 1982 when he lost his junior middleweight title, he went on to fight all the way until 1990. And here's the thing, and this is an interesting fact. His last fight, which was 1990, which any person would say, oh, yeah, he held on way too long. He was only 32, Alex. By today's standards, some fighters are just entering, their best performances, and he was already considered a fighter that was, being looked upon as being shot. Earlier that year in 1990, he did have a 4-year layoff, but in 1990 he fought an 0-11 guy, lost to a 13-1 Pat Lawler, but for all intent purposes, he was only 32.
Yeah, I think this is a good example about how boxing, it's not so much the calendar years or calendar age, it's mileage. And in terms of mileage, I mean, this guy, he did great things at a young age, but he poured on the miles at a young age. And that fight, it's a really good one to watch. The fight with Matthew Hilton was a brutal one, and that was one late in his career. At 154 pounds, you're right. I'm sorry, I didn't run him at 154. I only ran him at 140 and 147 in the simulator. But yeah, it got to the point, like I said, post-traumatic encephalopathy is what he has, and it's very sad. It's one of those things where the slowed down movement, slurred speech. He has very poor vision. They have benefits for him at this point. He's 60 years old right now, and the last I saw, there was an article last year about him. Every now and then you do see things in the news. Unfortunately, I think most of the time that I've noticed things, it's been about them holding benefits for his care at this point, because of course he needs a lot of health care. He's in very rough shape. I mean, in terms of, his understanding, I think, is that of like a child at this point. I mean, I think he does recognize people at times and stuff. But yeah, it's very sad, and I think that's the thing that people need to keep in mind. As much as we love this sport, it's very dangerous, and it would be nice if guys knew when to stop. And like I think last week we did Meldrick Taylor, and it was great to hear Larry Hazzard's comments about how he was in a position where he could stop a guy from going any further. And I think that's what you need, is responsible human beings who just say, look, I love this sport, but what you're doing is too much. You've given enough, and that's it.
Yeah, they have to be protected from themselves, because their outlook, the type of person they are, their makeup is they want to continue. All superstar athletes do, and boxing is more dangerous because of the nature of what it is. But every other sport is the same. A lot of times, athletes don't know when to say when. The smartest ones do, and they're the ones that are still around and active. His condition right now is so bad. I know he can't go to the bathroom himself or anything, but it's even worse because his sister, who was taking care of him, I believe is battling cancer herself. So now he doesn't even have that resource anymore. And the WBC had given him some kind of a retirement, but from what I understand, he only got 1 or 2 payments from them, and that kind of fizzled out too. So it's a shame what's going on with
and
these
I think
guys.
Like we have seen with so many other fighters, there was the issue of blowing through a lot of money because of that party and lifestyle. And I think, unfortunately, again, with the family dynamic, Supposedly his dad gambled away of a lot of his money. One of his sisters claims that's not true, but you know what that's like with when you have the family tearing at each other as well.
Well, you know, one of the other things I want to point out is in the 80s, those guys were making big money. It was actually the ratio of the purses that they were making then is just about coming around today for the big fights. In other words, you know, Sugar Ray Leonard and Hagler, they each made $10 million. Benitez made some money, you know, fighting big names at that time. There, you know, the 90s and early 2000s, the purses, you know, came down again. But back in the 80s, these big fights, these guys were making good money. So Benitez got paid. You know, you're right that obviously the management of the money wasn't good. I love his two nicknames, El Radar and Bible of Boxing. That's unique. I don't think I've ever heard of another fighter take on a alias like that.
Yeah, the Bible. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It is. Well, yeah, because he was like the truth. He was, you know, sort of a whole new understanding of the sport. His ability to see punches that weren't thrown yet was pretty remarkable.
How did he make out in the game, in the Title Bout Championship computer game?
He did very well.
In that game, you know, the game, the one I'm supposed to be talking about? Yeah, that one.
Yeah, in the Title Bout Championship boxing game, he first I put him in against Mikey Garcia, who's the 140-pound king, and Mikey Garcia actually stopped him. Garcia won by 7th round TKO, a minute and 23 seconds, and I assumed that Benitez just was listening to a lot of Donna Summer during that training camp and not really training. Because when they fight 100 times, Benitez is all over him. He wins 96 victories, only loses 3 times, has 1 draw. Benitez stopped Mikey Garcia 48 times. In his 3 victories, Mikey Garcia won them all by knockout. And then against the #1 welterweight in the world, Errol Spence, you know, Mr. Thurman hasn't fought in quite a long time, so in my opinion, you got to give it to Spence. And I think the Transnational Boxing Ratings agrees that. Boxing Rankings agrees with that. Benitez wins by unanimous decision. 115-111, 2 scores of that, and 1 score of 115-112. Spence had Benitez down in the 6th round, but Benitez battled back. And similar to the Garcia numbers, Benitez dominates 92 victories, only 8 defeats, 42 knockouts. In his 8 victories, Errol Spence scored 6 KOs.
Yeah, so they finally are kicking Thurman to the curb. Everybody's sick of all the excuses. He's an excuse machine.
Yeah, and I think it's been over a year since he was fighting, right? So I think that's also part of it.
Yeah, I think he's got another ingrown toenail, so they got to postpone it. Hey, Alex, I got to go. I'm a minute over, but real quick, your quick thoughts on the offer from Anthony Joshua to Deontay Wilder, $12.5 million, 2-fight deal, guaranteed 12.5 in the first fight. We don't know what the stipulations are for the second. Should he take it?
I certainly hope he takes it. I have a feeling he won't, only because I think that's what a lot of business, they say don't ever take the first offer, and this seems like it could be the first legitimate offer. I don't know. I hope he does. I kind of agree with Larry Hazzard that I'm leaning a little towards Wilder. I think that sadly, as much as I like Joshua more, I think Wilder has looked better in his last fight than Joshua did. I think it's a 50-50 fight at this point. I really hope it does happen, and I hope they don't put the brakes on it and wait to make the money pile bigger. I think that's just a big mistake. I mean, let's have the fight, and like you said, have 2. and make the big money in the second one. The second one's always, even sequels are always more money, even if they're crap.
That's true. They usually are. But you know what? I think that if this fight isn't made now, it's not going to be made at all.
I really hope they don't do the Mayweather-Pacquiao syndrome on this.
No, I mean
Heyman,
at all.
Heyman didn't seem to learn anything from that.
I mean at all. Heyman doesn't invest. The big misconception, everybody acts like, oh, Al Heyman, Al Heyman has never reached into his pocket once. He doesn't even buy his own soda. I mean, he uses other people's money. And he's greedy. He's getting all his cut anyway. So, no, he's not looking out for the well-being. But, Alex, I appreciate it. Great job as usual. Wilfred Benitez, a blast from the past, former world junior welterweight, and junior middleweight champion. He finished his career with 53 wins, 31 by knockout, 8 losses in which he was stopped 4 times, 1 draw. He was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1996. Great job as usual. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I'll have Sal Rocky Senecola joining us, so don't go anywhere. And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. And you're not listening to some sound because we got some sound issues all of a sudden. But I apologize for that. But joining me right now with no sound issues is my man, Sal Rocky Senecola. What's up, Sal?
Billy C., how are you today, buddy? I mean, how are you now? I was speaking to you earlier today. I listened to the segments, and they were beautiful as always. It's good to hear Larry Hazzard and of course Alex, and they were good pieces. But
well, we got some emails to read right now, so I wanted to get going with that.
Can I first just say something? I got some sad news earlier this week. Actually, it was Sunday morning. I believe it was.
Shoot.
Thanks, man. I have a friend of mine I met years ago. He came down for a visit. And his real presence in my restaurant is known when he comes in because I light it up, and he's a great guy, great family man, Kevin Shea. He's from Bergen County, New Jersey. We got together years ago, and we played connect the dots of who we knew and how we knew it, and it was amazing how small this world is. Well, it turns out that he was married into the family of my good doctor who literally saved my life. My first sports physician was Dr. Alan Levy. Dr. Alan Levy was a legend in the 70s and 80s. He was probably one of the grandfathers or fathers of sports medicine. And when you went to Dr. Alan Levy, you were not only rising or great athlete, you were already established. He was the medical sports doctor of the New York Giants and several other teams, and worked on some great athletes. And he saved my life. Dr. Alan Levy saved my life, and I tell that story every day in my restaurant. People read my Wikipedia, they ask me questions, and Dr. Alan Levy is mentioned in my restaurant every day. And Kevin Shea called me, and he gave me the sad news that Dr. Alan Levy passed the other morning, and at the age of 90. So he had a great full life, and he saved my life. He was the doctor that, if you remember, I just returned home from Europe and Canada, training with the United States boxing team. Not training, fighting with the United States boxing team against the other countries. In fact, Bobby Ches and I were both on the U.S. team going to Canada and coming back. And I got a phone call from the Olympic Committee asking me to join or to be a part of the USA national team going to fight against the Polish national team back in 1980. And it was going to be the last international fight before the Olympic trials. And, of course, the 80 Olympics was my goal. I wanted to participate and represent the United States over in the Soviet Union. So Dr. Levy was working on my left shoulder, and which has been sore for a while at that time. And he gave me cortisone shots. And finally, at this point, when I returned from Canada, he said, "Sal, do yourself a favor. If you want to go to the Olympic trials next month, you definitely need to skip this fight and not get on that plane and just rest the shoulder. Let's do some ultrasound and some therapy, and we'll get your shoulder ready for the Olympic trials." Well, I called the Olympic Committee. I think it was either Colonel Donald Hull at the time and Pat Nappy, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to pull out of this fight that I'm scheduled on. I was already scheduled to had the berth to go with the United States boxing team over to Poland." And I think it was Flight Lot 7 in March back in 1980. And the rest of the Olympic team went on that trip. Ironically, Bobby Ches was also supposed to be on that plane, but he broke his nose in a car accident a week before, so he pulled out. And wouldn't you know, at that flight, Flight Lot 7, I believe it was, going to Warsaw, Poland, never landed. It crash landed in a moat, and everybody on board perished and died in a plane crash. So that's why I always say Dr. Alan Levy inadvertently saved my life. And he was also the doctor in my last fight when I retired, who said I shouldn't fight when I tore my hamstring, and when I was fighting Louis Lamelli. And, of course, when I tried to pull out of that fight because of a torn hamstring, I was told that, "Sal, you got to go with this fight." I don't want to tell you who told me, but if you don't fight this fight, you're never going to get another opportunity to fight a big fight again. So I unfortunately didn't listen to Dr. Alan Levy's that time, and well, that fight didn't turn out so good. But my condolences, but my thankfulness to Dr. Alan Levy, who was a fantastic sports physician. Great. I admired him, respected him, and looked up to him many times over. And I thanked him for saving my life. I give him a credit for saving my life back in 1980. Thank you, Dr. Alan Levy. My thoughts and prayers are with your family and friends and all your admirers, because, boy, I will always continue to speak favorably of you every day in my restaurant when the question comes up. So thank you, Dr. Alan Levy, and rest in peace, sir. You are a great man.
Our thoughts and condolences from everybody from the Billy C family goes out to the family of Dr. Levy.
Thank you.
All of the emails that we were going to read, I will. That if I didn't get to your email today, I promise we will get to them tomorrow. But it's time to go to the trivia question. Now, this trivia question's been hanging around. It's a tough one. People are getting frustrated with it, but we want to give a winner. So I'm going to read the question. I'm going to give the two hints that we already gave, and I'm going to follow it by a third. And I really think that you guys will get it right after this. These three hints should put it in perspective. Been getting some great answers, and I love the fact that you guys are really working hard to get this. Now, what's on the line is your very own copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game. So if you're the first one to email me, and you have to email me the answer. If you're the first one to email me the correct answer, and we go by timestamps, so it's important. And even if you come up with this answer, if you're listening to this on a podcast or watching it on demand or wherever, always answer, because we haven't gotten a correct answer yet. So don't assume somebody answered it right. If you're the first one to email me, Billy at Talkin' Boxing, TalkinBoxing.com, you'll win your very own copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game, the same game that Alex just used for our Blast from the Past segment to put the simulation between Benitez and the two fighters that he put him in with. So here's the question. Name the boxer who fought the most fights from the start of his career before being defeated by stoppage. Now, it doesn't mean his first loss. It means the first loss that he was done by stoppage. So name the boxer who fought the most fights from the start of his career before being defeated by stoppage. The three hints are: he was never a world champion, he fought for the world title, and the third hint, he was a heavyweight. He was a heavyweight. Name the boxer who fought the most fights from the start of his boxing career before being defeated by stoppage. He never won a championship. He did fight for the world title, and he was a heavyweight. If you're for the first one to email me correctly, Billy at Talkin' Boxing, TalkinBoxing.com, you'll win a copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game. Good luck to everyone on that one. On this day, April 11th, in 1974, Ishimatsu Suzuki knocks out Rodolfo Gonzalez in the 9th round to win the WBC lightweight title, and that took place in Tokyo on this day in 1974. On this day in 1913, Sid Smith wins a 20-round decision over Eugene Creaky to win the vacant world flyweight title, and that took place in Paris, France. On this day in 1981, Larry Holmes wins a 15-round decision over Trevor Berbick to retain his WBC World Heavyweight title, and that took place in Las Vegas, Nevada, on this day in 1981. On this day in 1982, Michael Spinks knocks out Murray Sutherland in the 8th round to retain his WBA World Light Heavyweight title, and that took place in Atlantic City, New Jersey, on this day in 1982. And finally, on this day in 1992, James Toney wins a 12-round decision over Glenn Wolfe to retain his IBF middleweight title, and that took place in Las Vegas on this day in 1992. Programming note, well, we'll talk about that tomorrow, but make sure that you do tune in tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.